Good evening. It is once again Monday. It is July 20th, 2024. Welcome to episode 72 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. Tonight's episode will be kind of a hybridized version, covering a little bit of homestead news, the weekly poll, clip of the week, and a random assortment of some different just current events that are going on, and a quote that is so blatantly dishonest that it should be fairly easy to guess who it came from. But tonight's episode I titled not too long ago and decided to call it Staying the Course. And here on this homesteading channel, we talk about preparedness. But as of late, we've been talking a little bit more about politics, partly because preparedness is being aware of your surroundings and knowing what's going on in the world. And it's pretty hard to not pay attention to what's happening politically within the last 30 days. For us personally, I think that it's been fantastic. Both Rebecca and I, we're staying the course and we're getting a lot of things taken care of around here, and our lives really aren't noticeably disrupted, and things are great. And I hope that's the case for everybody who will be tuning in tonight. But for the nation as a whole, I think it's anything but been fantastic. And I've been expecting a lot of the things that are happening to happen. One of them being, and we've talked about it before, both Rebecca and I know that there's been a lot of other people out there pontificating about the fact that, former President Trump might be in the crosshairs as far as being a target of an assassination. And of course that happened just last week. That wasn't really that much of a surprise. As well, a lot of people have been speculating and have noticed a decline in the mental state of the current president, Biden. And we've been able to witness in the last month since the debate his complete and total collapse. So much to the point where yesterday he was just forced out of his reelection bid. And make no mistake about it, he was forced into that based on what we all saw. Most of us that are not looking at it from an ideological perspective, but maybe just as, hey, this is our president, this is our leader, we could see that he wasn't all there. And we've been saying that for a long time. Just ordinary people. I don't have a background in clinical psychology. I'm not a doctor, as are probably most people listening to this, but we could all look and we're pointing and saying, hey, look, there's something wrong there. And finally, within the last month since his collapse, it was really interesting to see how the media really just flipped the script on old Uncle Joe. And again, I say both of these events that took place, the assassination attempt and Biden's collapse, were nothing that are really that much of a surprise. But really what was a surprise to me personally is just the speed at which this is all taking shape. And that it's just so much out in the open right now. We can all see it. And so I'm a little bit shocked by that. I think more so because I'm able to witness a little bit clearer. And I think there's a lot of other people that are probably witnessing this as well. We're getting a chance to see how sausage is made in our government. We're getting a chance to see how the deep state actors and who's really pulling the strings behind the scenes are working, and to what extent they will go. Where will they stop? And I think it's pretty obvious to me that they'll stop at nothing to retain power based on what I've seen thus far. And it's just shocking that it's that much out in the open. We're getting a chance to see the exposure of the media, all the lies that they've told over the course of the number of 4 years. I would hope more people would kind of wake up to that, but I think a lot of us have been awakened to that. And it's interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we move through the broadcast tonight. But how are you this evening?
This afternoon,
Yeah.
Sometime today.
Yeah, well, it is kind of headed toward evening, isn't it?
Yeah. I am doing good. I tried to pull a fast one on my husband, and I thought while he went out and was doing his running, that I would start back into running again. I had been running the marathons with him, not quite the distance that he goes. And then I laxed on that for, let's say, years, since 2017. But he put a course here, and I thought, well, when he goes out and he goes running, then I'll go out and I'll run this course. He'd already told me the distance it was, so I knew what I needed to run while I was gone. And to my surprise, just the other day, he bought me a new watch so that it kept track of my heart rate and everything. So I'm doing good.
Yeah, you're caught up with the 21st century now.
Yeah.
You got an actual watch that's like a GPS watch, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, no, I'm proud of you. That's super good. People don't have to go out and run to make themselves better physically, but whatever you do, find something that you can improve your health with, because it's really the best prep you have. And I've actually, this is a little diversion from what I was going to talk about, but I mean, I've actually been starting to really notice how much better I feel. We've changed our diet quite a bit, and I'm just feeling fantastic. And it's something that I'm combining with the training that I'm doing. And so, if she's going to join along, all the better. So that's pretty cool. I'm proud of her. But hey,
thank you.
Good evening, Lucy, and good evening, Cindy. Good to see you guys tonight. But it's
hello to you guys.
Yeah, I thought I'd jump in, just talk a little bit about some homestead news. We don't really have a whole lot that we've got to report this week. It's just the standard homestead stuff, taking care of animals, taking care of the garden. It has been extremely hot. We thought we got a little bit of a break. We didn't really get too much of a break. I think it got down to about 100 degrees is the high. And it's today, I think it was like 109. So we're back in that 105, 110 range. And that's kind of like pretty standard around here in the summertime. It's not so great for us, but it is really not so great for all the plants and animals and stuff outside. So been just kind of furiously trying to make sure I'm staying on top of all the issues I need to deal with there, as far as providing them, shade and watering a good deal more. But what we do have to report on the homestead, and I'm pretty excited about it, quite honestly, is because we started this project with our solar probably close to a year ago. And it's been a long process, but I'm glad that it's finally over. And we've been generating our power and storing it here on the property for about the last 4 days. And what we went with was Tesla power walls. And so we've got 2 of them. We can store like 26 and a half kilowatt hours. And then, we're generating, generally speaking, about 57 kilowatt hours a day. We're using all of that for the majority, for the most part. We're putting some of it back into the grid, the excess, but it's just a really neat feeling to know that now that when the power goes out, we're not going to be affected in the way that we were before. That's not to say that, something couldn't come up where, the system goes down and, it's not like I'm able to work on it. I don't know the first thing about it, but it's pretty cool to have the app, and it's just very intuitive, and I can monitor where our energy is going and how much we're storing. And it gives you much better understanding of how much energy you actually use in a day. And, no, it's just a really good feeling. That's something that was a big goal of ours for this year. And I'm just pleased to have it up and running. What do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that you can monitor it. And I honestly was surprised that my washing machine did not pull as much energy as I thought it would when I was washing.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of things that don't, but what we have is we've got 2 air conditionings on the house, and they're not energy efficient. They're the old, HVAC style, 2.5, 4 ton, units. And so they draw a lot of energy. I wish if I had to do it over again, I would have got mini splits installed. That would have been the way to go, because they're much more energy efficient. I just didn't know at the time. So when we replaced our air conditioning units on the house, we went that direction, which to me was looking back on it, again, it's another one of those things you do and you make a mistake, but really happy to have the ability to like not be affected when the power goes out. So that's super cool. Self-reliance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's up, Tim Riley? Matt Stone's in the house. How you doing? Let's see here. Yeah, he says, if you're having a bad day, if so, eat bacon. You might just feel better. Yeah, man. That's the meat candy of everything.
Bacon is pretty tasty.
Yeah.
On just about anything.
Yeah. Let's see here. Skane says that she's looking into solar and you'll be completely off grid in Kansas. That's fantastic. I mean, I think once, you get to that point, however you get to that point, you're just going to have a much greater sense of feeling like, hey, I'm a little bit more in control, because that is something we absolutely take for granted. It's really easy just to walk into a room and flip the switch on. And then when the power goes down, you're affected in a way that's like, oh shit, now I got to do this or I got to do that. I got to go hook up the generator, or if you don't have a generator or whatever it happens to be, it's an inconvenience. And so the more things that you can do to kind of shore up those disruptions, you're going to be better off. So that's really awesome that you're looking into getting solar. I still have some things I need to do. I probably need to try to figure out how to get an EMP shield on it or something like that. But I'm stoked that we've made this step at least. And then, just harvesting stuff around here, trying to keep up with the vegetables, right? I think everybody's probably in that same boat where, you're pulling things off and, you have to do something with them now. And so Rebecca's been trying to can as much as I've been pulling stuff off and bringing it to her. What'd you put up today?
Spent my, I would say most of my day in the kitchen doing tomatoes and pickles.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, one thing I'm actually considering doing, because my beet harvest sucked this year. It was nothing worth putting up. It just didn't turn out. And so I'm actually thinking of maybe seeing if we can buy some beets. Because I love, pickled beets and stuff. And I'm sure you're going to be wanting to can some more stuff.
Yes. Especially that stuff that tastes like dirt.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Skane says it's a requirement of where she'll be temporarily, no utilities. Yeah. If the grid goes down, I can go to solar or run a generator. That's so good, man, to have these redundancies. I think a lot of people live their life not really thinking about it. Not so much in this community, people that are self-reliance minded, homesteaders, we have to be thinking along those lines, because we're kind of outside of the services in a lot of respects. When power goes out in this area, we're not the first people to get power restored, let's just say, because we're a little bit further out of town. And so that was one of the things that I did first when we moved in. I was like, hey, this is not cool. So I actually had the house wired with a transfer switch so I could select the breakers that I wanted to isolate when I'm running my generator. And, you just have to do that kind of thing when you are on property or you're not right in the city. And even if you are in the city, you should be thinking about some redundancies. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. Let's see. What made me choose a grid-tied system? Well, I guess a number of different things. It would be nice to be completely autonomous, I suppose, right? And managing my own power outside of the utilities. But here in California, you have to be tied to the grid. So that's one of the reasons why, if I'm going to do something here on my house and have it legal, I can't just have some bullshit coming into my house without it being run through a permitting process. And so it has to go through and jump through all of those regulatory hoops. That's one of the reasons why it took so long for it to actually, we had to get the permits and we had to do all this stuff. I initially thought, hey, I'm going to try to do this on my own. And I was in contact with Sean Mills from Hack Your Homestead. And, he reached out to me and we started corresponding back and forth, and we were going to be trying to do this. But it proved to be too much for my pay grade, for what I was accustomed to knowing how to deal with. And then I could have probably could have overcome those obstacles. But what the obstacle really was for me is the regulatory environment. And I just wasn't equipped to deal with these assholes that have to sign you off and all of that stuff. So I just opted for the people that actually put in our system back in 2015. So we've had 30 panels that we've been on solar since 2015. I just decided to go to the same company. And one of the battery systems that they offer is Tesla. And I have no problems with Tesla Powerwalls. I have no problem with the company per se. So it's all under warranty. It's all done by the book. So if there was something were to happen where we were going to sell this piece of property, they're not going to look at this and say, oh, we're not going to give you credit for the work that you've done here because it's not permitted. And so that's one of the reasons why we chose a grid tied system, is because of one, we kind of have to in California, right? You can't just have your own off grid thing and do your thing unless you want to just do your thing and have it be, outside of the system completely. Like if I was to build a cabin somewhere, 100% that's what I would do, because I'm not permitting anything. And it's just on my property out in some remote area. But that's not where I live. And that's not, the reality of the house that we've purchased. So it's actually pretty nice, man, to be tied to the grid. Nothing wrong with it, because it sends my excess to the grid when I'm at peak and I'm not using it all. And then I've got that surplus sitting there so that when I run my batteries down to 20%, because I have it set so that we don't go any lower than 20%. And so when it reaches that point, it shuts off at 20%, and then we start pulling from the grid. But I never at this point have pulled anywhere close to what I dump in every day. I'm dumping somewhere about 10 to 12 kilowatt hours back into the grid. I'm not looking to have that. I'm not looking to get that money because they don't pay anything for it, like cents per kilowatt hour. So I'll probably use that, but it's nice to have that sitting there so that if I need to run it, I know where I'm sitting with regard to how much I put in, So anyhow, enough of that. Let's see here. What's up, Braden? How you doing, man? Good to see you tonight. Let's see. I'm trying to stay up on these comments, guys. So maybe Rebecca, if you can.
You always ask me that.
I know.
And I can't hardly read them.
Yeah, you need to read, or get some better glasses.
I need to get better glasses.
Yeah. So anywho, one of the things that, along those same lines that happened here, I guess, a couple of days ago, was a global computer outage. And it really goes to show how incredibly dependent on technology we all are. And again, this speaks to preparedness, right? Are you prepared for what will happen to you in the event of something like this on a prolonged period? They shut down airlines. They shut down 911 systems. They shut down banking systems. They shut down the financial system. They shut down just about everything worldwide. And so whether this was something that was intentional, put out there as a false flag, whether or not this was something that was completely accidental, which I don't really think any of this stuff's accidental. Somebody did it, and for some reason it was done. Who was it done by? I know that there's people that know who it was done by, but you and I aren't getting that information. So take a look at this little clip right here, and this kind of explains exactly what happened. And it just goes to show the vulnerabilities that we all are under when we're attached to the system.
Morning's top story, the worldwide computer outage that disrupted air travel, healthcare, banking, and communication systems. This morning, companies are seeing signs of recovery after spending most of Friday scrambling to get past the so-called blue screen of death. The issue was caused by a faulty software update from CrowdStrike. It affected computers running Microsoft Windows. The company says it's working on a fix and that the issue was not caused by a cyber attack or a security breach.
So If it was caused by a cyber attack, they're probably not going to tell you that it was caused by a cyber attack, right? Because they don't want people panicking like, oh, it was a cyber attack. They don't want to show their vulnerabilities. So my inclination, and I don't know, I'm not a person on the inside that knows this sort of thing. I would say that there probably was some form of cyber attack, and they're just telling you that it's not. Regardless of whether it was or not, doesn't really matter. What matters is the fact that we were affected by it. Many people were affected by it. And it's not unplausible to think that this isn't going to happen again. So, yeah, I don't know. It's something that is certainly a vulnerability. And it goes back to the theme of tonight, which is basically staying the course. You know, do you have the things that you need, right? We talk about preparedness and homesteading and all these things, prepping and self-reliance. Do you have those basic things? I know a lot of people do that listen to this channel, but there's some people that might listen to this that are maybe just getting started. Or maybe you live in an apartment somewhere, you're in a city environment and you don't have chickens, you don't have a deep pantry and those sort of things. Do you have water? Do you have food? Those are the basic necessities of life. If you don't have those, you know, you're going to be ass out. Do you have extra cash on hand? I know that a lot of people think cash is trash, but when you need to do some barter or you need to do something because the system is down, this is a perfect example of, hey, you're out on the road and this shit happens and you need gas in your car. How are you going to get gas when you can't do anything with your plastic? Your ATM doesn't work. Are they even going to be open? Are they going to be accepting it? If they are, and you've got cash, those are things that you need. Do you have any alternative ways to communicate with people, your loved ones, and people in your group? Do you have alternative communications? How about when you're home? Do you have those over-the-counter medications? Do you have extra pet food for your dog and your animals and you? Do you have your prescription medications, basic medical supplies? Some way to defend yourself. These are all things that preppers talk about on the regular, but things like this reiterate the importance of having those things. And then when you have them, think about it from time to time and actually look at the shit and say, what do I have? Inventory it, go through it, you know, maybe quarterly. That's what we try to do on our important things. We try to look at those things, go through and do pantry management, make sure nothing's rotting that doesn't need to be thrown out, and just go through all of that stuff, because it's one thing to procure and put stuff back. But if you don't know how to use it, or you don't know if it's any good when you go to, you know, use it, that's a problem. So these kind of things, when I see them happen, this global outage thing, man, that could easily happen again. And I can almost rest assured that it will. So let's get to this quote. I got this quote, right? And I'm going to tell you right out of the gate, you know, sometimes I say, is it a liberal or conservative? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, this is a liberal. And, you know, it wouldn't be any secret once you hear the quote. But it shouldn't be too hard to figure out who it actually is as well. It goes like this. California is the tent pole of the American economy, home to the world's greatest education system, a place where people can love who they want, access the reproductive freedom they deserve, and pursue a dream of a safe and prosperous life, their California dream. Across the spectrum, California simply has no peers. Who do you think that is, Rebecca?
Oh, gosh, you know, I would want to say Gavin Newsom.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And you know, it's interesting about this Gavin Newsom guy. He's a guy that just doesn't seem to want to go away, even though he's been pretty failed in his efforts here in California. He wants to paint a rosy picture about how great things are. But for the people that actually live here, we tell a different story. You know, he wants to talk about what California leads the nation in, but let me address what California actually does lead the nation in. It leads the nation in high crime. It has the highest crime rate, highest taxes, highest housing costs, highest cost of college tuition, has high inflation. It's the number one state, California, number one again in outward migration. It has the highest rate of unemployment, and we lead the nation in unemployment fraud. High gas prices, high homeless population, and it's the state with the most illegal aliens. High energy costs, high sex trafficking, highest abortion procedures. Imagine that. And so California has just recently passed a new law. I don't know if you guys heard about this. It's fairly recent, but it's been in the news. You may have heard already. But I think that it oversteps its authority and responsibility as far as what a state should be doing. Because I don't think they have any business dictating what should be happening with regard to families. And it's this new law that has come out. It's a gender law. Maybe you've heard of it. Check this out.
Today, Gavin Newsom and the Democrats from California are the first state in the whole country to ban schools from informing their parents of child's pronoun change. And there was also talk, I don't know if y'all remember, last year and the year before, to also pass similar bills that if a child wanted to have those changes, those surgeries, California was also saying that parents should have no say of those types of surgeries for like gender affirming care. I'll have to follow up with that. It was said that that's what they wanted to do a couple years ago, but this is where California and Democrats are today, to where even something as a pronoun change, the law is now that parents don't have to know if someone, a child, will want to go with another opposite sex pronoun. So let me know what Democrats think, and especially those in California.
So what do you think about that, Rebecca? Do you think that's appropriate? Do you think that the school should be withholding information that parents should have a right to know about their child?
I would say absolutely not. It's none of the government's business. I mean, you are the parent. You should be in control of your own child.
Yeah, I think that's probably what a lot of people probably feel. And so I think that, he's overstepped his bounds. And they've been doing that here in this state for a long time. And the reason why I bring this up, again, because this guy is not going to go away. And there may be people elsewhere that might think, hey, this Gavin Newsom, he looks good and he's got nice hair and teeth. And he says things that, maybe in some ways make sense to you. Maybe it does completely. Maybe this sort of thing you actually support. That's your choice. I vehemently disagree. I don't think that the state has any rights hiding things from parents. However, I think it's a parent's choice on how they want to deal with that. There's nothing to say that you need to have your children in that environment either. I know if it were us and it were our children in today's society, it would be a much different choice for us. But yeah, I think that's completely inappropriate. And reading a little bit further into it, someone else has a pretty big problem with it as well, and that's Elon Musk.
From ABC7, we have breaking news. Elon Musk today announced that he's moving SpaceX headquarters from Hawthorne to Texas. He says he's doing it in protest of a state law signed by Governor Gavin Newsom that prevents California schools from notifying parents if their children identify as transgender. He called the law the final straw. Musk also plans to move X, formerly known as Twitter, to Texas.
That's how you deal with that sort of thing, man, is you vote with your dollars. And that's exactly what he's doing. He moved his company Tesla from Silicon Valley in the Bay Area a couple of years ago, I guess it was, because of the regulatory environment that I was speaking about earlier in California. And he's like, yeah, I'm playing this fucking game. I'm out of here. See you later. And he went and he moved his plant to Texas. And so consequently, now he's doing the same with his other businesses, both Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and SpaceX. That's a lot of money, man, a lot of jobs. And so not only is California losing residents, but they're losing major businesses like this. And I commend Elon Musk for taking this sort of stand, because so many, rich people, they tend to side on the other side for whatever reason. I guess it works for them. but it doesn't work for him. And the more that I learn about how this guy conducts himself, the more I kind of like him. I don't know. I had some reservations initially about Elon Musk, but with what he's done with Twitter and the way he's come out and the things he's spoken about, in my opinion, he's pretty reasonable. And so I think it's fantastic that a guy with his level of influence and power and money around the world is being an advocate for, people that have good sense.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a bonus that he has children too. I think that also helps sway your opinion. When you have children. When you don't have kids, you can say, hey, yeah, that sounds good.
Right. Yeah, it's weird though, man. People, even with kids, some people they buy into this shit where they can choose their gender and we're gonna not do whatever and we're gonna they buy into this, and I don't know how that sickness gets put into people, but I really think that that's kind of what it is. It's a mental illness, and it's permeating society, and I think we're seeing a lot of people kind of push back against it. Thankfully, we have people like Musk, who's been a little bit more forceful in his decision making on that, and hopefully it'll have an effect. But that falls in line with this week's weekly poll, where I asked in this poll, I said, which would you choose for the education of your children in 2024? Now, understandably, some of you probably don't have children in school, as we don't either anymore. But I was asking this question based on hypothetically, if you had children in school, what would you choose? And I put these three choices out. I put private school, public school, and homeschool. And 201 people cast their vote. So thanks for that. And it broke down as follows. 14% of people chose private school, 16% chose public school, and 70% chose homeschool, which I was actually kind of surprised by that. I mean, on one hand, no, I'm not surprised, because the deterioration of the public school system and what we've all seen go on there with the indoctrination of certain values that really have no place in the public school. It just doesn't have any place. Pronouns and all this other bullshit that they're pushing onto kids. And I think that parents are starting to get fed up with that. And so this 70% figure is representative of what their feeling is regarding it. Whether or not there would actually be 70% of people that would physically do that, I don't think it would be that high. But that is kind of, to me, a surprising result. What do you think about that, Rebecca?
It does not surprise me, because I do hear when I'm out, people talking about homeschooling their kids, but it's also your ability to be able to homeschool. If you're a single parent and you've got to go out and work, unless you've got a network of homeschooling moms where you can rotate through and help teach, then it's impossible to homeschool.
See, I understand what you're saying, but see, here's the thing: nothing's impossible. There's ways to navigate around a lot of different things. You just need to be super creative. And to your point, what you said about, finding these co-ops and places where you can put your kids, you can, there's resources out there for you to do that. Maybe you can have a family member, maybe a family member like a retired person, like a grandparent or something like that, fulfill that role. So there's ways to navigate around that if a person wants it bad enough. I know for you and I, if our kids were still in grade school and things were like they are now, I would definitely find any way that I could so that we could homeschool our children. Whether that meant I had to quit my job and you had to go back to work and get a job, we would be doing something along those lines, because it's not okay, man. That is, I think, one of the
It is,
the biggest
but even though our kids were in public school, I was definitely a presence at their high school. I was there quite a bit, and they never knew when I was going to show up. But
Right.
It was, to be involved and have an idea of what's going on.
Right. Well, that's important. But see, we're talking about a different time too.
Right. So now I would say if we had kids, yes, I
Right.
definitely would want to homeschool them and not subject them to what's going on in public school.
Right. I wasn't saying what would you want to do in 2003 or, whatever it was when our kids were still in school. But yeah, I don't know. That was kind of a surprising result, but not altogether completely unsurprising to me. One of the things I think that has been a real issue in this country, and we've got to see that with Joe Biden here recently, right? The media lied for the last 4 years regarding his status. They lied to the American people. They covered up his declining mental state, but yet we could all see it. It wasn't anything that was really that hidden. It was just they didn't report on it. And so I started to notice personally a decline in journalism, the journalistic ethic of what the media is supposed to actually do, which is to ask the tough questions on behalf of the American people, to hold the people that we have elected to positions of power to some higher degree or some higher standard of what we would expect. We would expect answers, right? And so I would say it was probably around 2008 when Barack Obama got elected. And I first noticed it there, where there was never any tough questions asked of him. In fact, I saw one tough question that was asked, and he fucking scorned that person. And that person looked like they just had to put their tail between their legs and they just put their head down. And that was the only time I ever saw that happen. And it never happened again, but nobody ever challenged him. And so it would always bother me that, here we have this media apparatus that really doesn't ask the tough questions that the American people have, questions about. And so do you think that we'll ever get to a point of restoring journalism in this country? I guess that's the question that I'm asking rhetorically to anybody listening. Or what do you think, Rebecca?
It would take a lot of work for them to, and a lot of coordination, I think. Yeah, I'm going to say probably no.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, because what I see transpiring is I see a lot of people going outside of mainstream media, and they have to see it. They have to know that they're in a dying industry because they've been so dishonest and so deceitful and so much, so partisan in the way that they come at providing information. And so what you've seen as a consequence is you've seen a lot of different places that people can go to get their information, and people are getting that satisfied, whether it's going to a certain podcast or, somebody who used to work in mainstream media and now is doing their own thing, that are a little bit more liberated to talk and not be under the direction of, the program directors, people like Tucker Carlson and Bill O'Reilly and Megyn Kelly and people like that are out there that are actually doing and getting information out to the people. It's interesting to see that journalism, I would hope that it would come back. I actually saw a video, which I'm going to show you here real quick, but let me get to this one comment. This is from Hilltop Blues, and says, I worked 8 years in a government high school. There is not a snowball's chance in July I would ever send my child to that school. Yeah, I think that's really telling, man. I think that has to do partially with, your political leanings, because I know that there's people that are completely happy with public school and they see nothing wrong with it. But, it's because it's speaking to their own biases or whatever they might feel about, same-sex marriage and gender and, all the things that they're pushing, on people. But I appreciate your comment. And I like hearing from people who have actually been there doing that to give some perspective. So thanks, Hilltop. Hey, what's up? Bill Zegley, what's going on? Lewisburg, Tennessee in the house.
Okay.
Yeah, welcome this evening. Let's see here. So I was talking about, restoring journalism, and I came across this video where this dude was ripping Gavin Newsom's ass. And I thought it was the best thing I'd seen in a long time, because as you probably can tell by listening to this broadcast for any amount of time, I'm not a real big fan of his. And the reason why I'm not is because I'm a resident of the state that he has happened to help usher into a rapid decline. We have one of the most beautiful states anywhere. There's so much here that people came here for originally, and now people are leaving here. And there's a reason for that. It's because of poor management. It's because of mismanagement and poor policy. And so any chance I get to expose what a fraud this fucking guy is, I'm going to do that. And so I commend this particular reporter for actually restoring a little bit of maybe what we would call journalism, or at least investigative reporting, right? He's asking the tough questions. So check it out.
And you know that the way you framed that is going to lead me to ask you to flesh
Your
that
office
out.
is aware of my question. I've tried to schedule time to talk with you about this.
I don't know what you're referring
PG&E
to.
was convicted of 6 federal felonies in 2016. After that, you took more than $200,000 to help get elected. How should people trust you to be running the show to come up with the solutions?
I wish you luck with whatever you're working on, but that's a strange question. So.
Well, I know it's a strange question. It's a strange time, but there's a convicted federal felon making campaign donations in this state to our duly elected leaders, including the speaker, who took almost $9,000.
Yeah, look, we're trying to focus on the
It's a
issue.
serious question. You don't think people want an answer to that?
We are focusing very, very collaboratively on addressing the issue of not only one IOU that went bankrupt, but the prospects of 2 IOUs going bankrupt. The prospect that 2 in Southern California will have a downgrade in their bond rating. That
Well
could
aware
lead-
of the issue. Is it okay for you to take the money from them with the felony conviction? They're still serving their sentence, for crying out loud.
We have additional questions.
Yeah.
Governor, I've got a policy question about the wildfire.
You're not going to answer. You're not going to answer the question.
I don't know what more I can say that will.
You can say
satiate-
whether you agree it was okay to take money from a felon, and will you give it back?
Yeah. So, perfect opportunity for a politician to sit there and to try to, not answer the question and divert and go to some other bullshit. And that guy was holding him to account. And I appreciate that. I wish we had a lot more of that on all sides of the aisle. I'm not just saying that because I don't like Gavin Newsom, which I don't. I would say that on any politician, because politicians need to be held to a higher standard. They're taking money from us, the people, regardless of whether or not we agree with it. And then they're doing whatever they're doing behind closed doors. It needs to be a lot more transparent with what's happening in this country, but unfortunately it's not. And so if we don't have a media that is nothing more than a bunch of compliant lapdogs that are going to serve the agenda of the higher ups in these political parties, what do we have? So I commend this dude, but I don't really think that it's gonna move in that direction either, Rebecca. But I do feel somewhat inspired by the fact that you've got a lot of different places you can get your information, at least at this point in time. Things could easily change in the future. And again, I go back to what I said earlier about this kind of being the wild, wild west. I may not be able to speak like this, moving forward at some point. But while I have the opportunity to vent and get information out there, I'm going to do that. So, what do you think?
I think that there has to be, like a large group of people who are a large group of journalists who are going to make that move together so that they have support. Doing it just one person here, one person there, they're being demonized and just being shot down. And that's why I think it's not going to change.
Right. But somebody has to be that person, or a collection of people have to be that people.
Right.
And again, the more people that are willing to speak to truth, the more other people are going to feel empowered to do that as well. If I'm afraid to talk and to voice my opinion or opposition in this type of a forum, what am I doing? So I think the more people that are willing to get out there and actually do that and challenge these people, they're supposed to work for us. Let me ask you guys, let me ask you in the chat, does anybody believe the government anymore? Do you have faith in your government? The people that you sent to Washington, your representatives, the people that are in your state houses, do you feel like they are representing you? And does anybody believe what they have to say? I can honestly say for myself, I do not. And it was pretty evident today because a lot of people have questions that there's answers out there too. They know what the answer is, but they're unwilling to give that answer to the American people. And so what does that do? Causes speculation. I happened to listen to the hearing today with not the FBI, but the
CIA.
The Secret Service director was subpoenaed to come into Congress for another one of the dog and pony shows. They were trying to ask questions that would get some answers, but this person was unwilling to do that. But see, we see that with every one of these hearings, whether it's Mark Zuckerberg being called there or Hunter Biden or some other person that they're saying, hey, we're going to drag you out here and get some answers. And then they just completely avoid the question. So this was a government representative, the person in charge of the Secret Service, who clearly she admitted that they failed last week, but yet she had no answers and she was just deferring everything to, I need to wait till the investigation comes out. And we won't get the information probably for another 60 days. And the one thing that was really, I guess, and this was just my initial impression because it changed over the course of me listening to more of this hearing. But initially I thought, you know what? There is actual a bipartisan support for asking this person to step down. There weren't a lot of people playing politics until later. And then it was disappointing. It was more of the same. You had these people, they were trotting out the leftists who wanted to make this about more of a gun control issue and weapons of war and, all this bullshit that they want to try to pump into the American people as to, hey, that's the problem, rather than dealing with the problem of inciting people or dealing with the fact that the policies that their party has put onto people has caused despair and death. They don't focus on that. They want to look at guns. But nonetheless, there was a certain number of people that surprised me. AOC was somebody who fucking absolutely surprised me. I thought, oh God, she's going to speak. What is this going to be? And when I listened to her, I thought, this is the first time I've ever heard her say anything sensible that I actually agree with. There wasn't any partisan bullshit. It was trying to get to the answers from this person, and she ripped the director. And I thought, man, this is the best I've ever heard this person speak. I don't listen to her a lot, and the things that I hear I don't like. But this was sensible, and I was like stunned, and I don't know. That's why people don't believe in our government, because we're not given any answers. And so what it does is it promotes people out there latching on to, oh, there's a second shooter. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's that. Well, there may be all of those things. They haven't given us any reason to believe that they're not behind it, right? So let me ask you this. I didn't want to put this out on a poll, but let me know in the chat, if you will. What do you think? Do you think the government was behind this plot? You think it was a lone gunman? Do you think they had anything to do with it? What do you think, Rebecca?
I think they're completely behind it, just in the fact that there are people who were pointing him out, and they didn't act on it. But then even when you get more information that they knew about this guy 45 minutes to an hour prior to Trump even making it out on the stage, and they didn't act upon it, I would say yes. And then there's a lady that's behind Trump that I've listened to them talk about her a couple times. She's got glasses on, she's got a sign, and she didn't. They were discussing her response, which was not surprised when it happened. They said it almost appears, even though she had sunglasses on, almost appeared as though she had smiled, and she kind of looked down at her cell phone and did something to that. So, yeah, I believe it definitely was planned.
Yeah, I think a lot of people believe that the government had something to do with it because, for one, they haven't given any reason to believe that they haven't been a part of it. Everything that they've done to this guy for the last 8 years has pointed to government malfeasance, right? They've manufactured a bunch of bullshit on him, and then when something like this happens, and the thing is so obviously glaring that they fucked up, what are people to expect? I don't know. I have no idea how people should react to this. I do know that there's a lot of people out there. So we've got a couple people chiming in there. MS Sean says, yes, the government involved in my belief. That's my belief as well. Yep. Government never says anything that's to be believed. And that's an unfortunate thing, quite honestly, because I used to not be that way. But they've given a lot of people cause to question what they're doing. So it's a pretty interesting place we are in, quite honestly. A lot of people are saying this. One of those people is Joe Rogan.
All the stuff that's coming out about the shooter now, the more you read about it, the more you're like, what is going on?
Like a BlackRock thing too, right?
Yeah, he did a BlackRock commercial. They knew that there was a suspicious person 10 minutes before Trump went on stage. They still wouldn't let him go on stage. They saw him on the fucking roof, and they didn't engage.
Yeah.
They saw him on the roof with a rifle.
It's a bad Secret Service right there.
They wouldn't put Secret Service agents on the roof because they said there was a slope to the roof.
Right.
And it would be dangerous.
It's more dangerous if the ex-president gets shot.
Bro,
which he did.
They let him get off. The kid got off 3 shots. And apparently there was one that we saw that hit his ear, and you see the bullet. Like, the photographer got a bullet flying by his head.
Yeah.
But apparently there's another one of a bullet going by his left side of his head. So it went by the right side of his head, hit his ear, and went by the left side of his head as well. Because the guy got off 3 shots.
Yeah.
And he just missed Trump every time.
There's the one shot of him like turning his head, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It was that close?
Dude, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. And the fact that they had such poor security guarding him, like they did such a terrible job.
My uncle's convinced it's bullshit. My uncle's like, there's no way this is real.
I don't think it's not real, but look, here's the deal. Okay, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Just want to be real clear.
Yeah.
But they have organized assassinations before.
Sure.
And when they organize...
Usually starts a war.
Assassinations, it looks just like that. And when they organize assassinations, one of the things they like to do is have some fucking loser kill the president, and then they kill the fucking loser, and that's a wrap. This kid kind of like stops all the leads.
Oh,
everything's like, where does he go? So they have his phone. They say they can't get into his phone. Bitch, I know you read my text messages.
Yeah,
so
why is it taking so long to break into this shit?
Phone? How can you not get in that kid's phone?
It's always
They knew that if this kid was going to go on the roof and shoot the president, they could talk him into going on the roof. Let's assume, not even this scenario, because let's not be crazy. Let's just say if you wanted to set up a scenario, we're going to have someone assassinate the president. You get some guy whose life is a fucking complete and total disaster. You either hypnotize him or you mentor him, you give him psychiatric drugs, you do a bunch of things, you get him to do it, and you know that once he gets on top of that roof and shoots the president, everyone's going to shoot him. And it's nice and clean. They never let those guys live.
My question is, though, how? Of course, but my question is, do you want him actually to kill Trump in this scenario?
Yeah. They definitely wanted him to kill Trump.
Yeah. So, people aren't alone in speculation. And there's a reason why we're speculating. It's because these people who've been called to give us answers are just doing nothing but stonewalling. And even when we get the answers, who's going to believe the FBI? They were behind the assassination of JFK. They were behind Watergate. They were behind all of this shit that the deep state's been involved in. And so who's going to believe the report that comes out? That's my question. I'm not going to believe it. I'm going to assume that it's bullshit. The only way that I'm going to believe any kind of report if it's a completely independent people that have been put together, that have security background, and that are highly trained in counter surveillance. That's the only thing I'm going to fucking trust. I'm not going to trust the government to give me some bullshit report, because they've done nothing but obfuscate and try to deflect people knowing the answers. This is a serious thing, man. The president almost got fucking killed. Leading candidate for the president of the United States. That would have had some stuff jump off in this country. People would have been a lot different today than they would be right now. And it's the same old story, man. They're not giving us any answers. So of course people are going to speculate, and then they're going to start, making.
Well, I think it just makes them look even more guilty when they don't give you an answer. You ask them something and they just avoid it and try to lead you in a different direction. And it's like, well, why can't you just answer the question?
Right.
Just answer the question.
Right. Well, I mean, are they being put up to it? I can't imagine that they didn't know about this. I mean, they were pointing to it, just like all of us were pointing at Joe Biden saying, look, there's something wrong. There was ordinary people there a week ago in Pennsylvania pointing to the roof and saying, hey, look, there's something wrong. And the government just ignored it. They were scoping him. As I said last week, they shot him like 3 seconds after he shot. So they had him in the crosshairs. Reports come out now that they had him a lot longer than that. Yes. So to what extent was he involved with them? I mean, it's what Joe Rogan said there isn't completely implausible. It would be implausible if the government wasn't a bunch of fucking liars and trying to cover stuff up. So, let's see here. Gregory Kissel says her reaction makes me wonder, and I didn't seem surprised to hear the shot. What was the nod all about? What do you mean? What was the nod all about?
Well, she nodded. She was not too far from Trump. Apparently they were talking about another guy that she, I think that's who she nodded to, was the other guy.
Oh, you're talking about the chick that was on her cell phone, filming or whatever. I don't give that any amount of credibility to me, because everybody's on their cell phone. They don't know what they're looking at. I don't think she's involved. This is in
correspondence with the shot and her response to it.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, that's some rabbit hole bullshit. I mean, it's immaterial to any of this. What is material is the fact that the Secret Service failed miserably. And I think that they had something to do with allowing it to be that way. These people have a huge fucking budget, man. It's like $3-point-something billion. They've got all the technology in the world. And yet somebody who is of his stature, former president, with threats from foreign actors, threats from domestic actors, they're going to allow that kind of a mix-up. And then this clown, this DEI hire, is going to come and sit there and say, I'll just have to wait till no, I'm not going to resign. Do the honorable thing, man. Do the honorable thing and fall on the sword, because you ain't doing your job. If that was any CEO of any company that did anything of consequence that was of a failure, they would be gone the next day. What do they do on football teams? You don't win the Super Bowl, you're 0-13, you're not working next year. That's a glaring failure on her part. So I don't know, man. The buck has to stop with somebody. And unfortunately, what we got to see today was just more of the same. That was Mark Zuckerberg sitting there saying, I don't know, Senator. I'll have to get with my people. I don't know, Senator. That's exactly what we saw today. So I don't know, man. William Zegley says, yeah, a reporter that asking the hard-hitting questions instead of the softballs of the past. Yeah, that would be a nice return to what we used to see. I don't know. I guess things have always been kind of political. I was just probably too young to really be paying attention. I'm paying attention now, and I've learned an awful lot since 2020 with how the sausage is made and what's happening in our country, because we're openly seeing the deep state do what they do, right? So I guess the next question is, what do you think, Rebecca? Are they going to try it again?
I think that they are not going to stop. Yes, they're going to try it again. I think they're going to continue to try until they succeed.
That's the part that I think everybody should really be concerned with, because I think there's a lot of people that are feeling like, oh, hey, Trump's, he's going to win in all these states, and, he's going to beat Kamala, and he's going to do all of this. So, you know what, man, I'm going to stick to what I said in the past. I don't mean to be Mr. Doom and Gloom here, but you have to inject a little bit of reality into the things that you're out there talking about. And since I am talking about this tonight, I'm going to say and stick with what I've said since 2020, when the election was the result that we got. I'm going to say that he's not going to be president this time. And, you can disagree with me. Others can disagree with me. And I hope that I'm wrong, quite honestly. I really hope that I'm wrong. But they have far too much to protect. They have far too much invested in what they've already exposed of themselves. Look what they've done with all the sham trials and all the Russiagate and all the other bullshit that they've been throwing at this dude. And now they've tried to kill him. And that didn't work. So what do you think is going to happen if he were to get back in? Do you think he's going to uncover some of this stuff? Do you think that they have something to hide? I think it's unquestionable. Aside from what they have to hide, how about all of the things that they're trying to do with their agenda, climate change, and this global, consortium that they've put together? That's all a part of it as well. They can't allow him to drill, baby, drill, right? We need clean energy. We need Green New Deal. So aside from the fact of all of the things that the deep state doesn't want him to do, all the globalists and all the money and the power players that are behind all of these initiatives that don't really serve the value and the interest of the people per se, they serve their interests, right? They serve them having more control over the people. So I don't think that there's any question that they're not going to probably try again. May not be a bullet, but it'll be something.
Well, I firmly believe that they're going to try their best, but I'm not going to be an absolute and say that they're 100% going to succeed. I would hope that on Trump's side that he's got enough people backing and working to actually protect him from all of their attempts. But right. I don't think that they're going to stop.
No, I don't either. And man, I wish for the sake of our country that we didn't have to even be talking about this, because it's completely unnecessary. But when you expose this much corruption and there's this much at stake, they've been saying for as long as I can remember anything about politics, this is the most important election of your lifetime. This absolutely is. And I believe that Trump would win regardless of who they put up, whether it was Michelle Obama or Hillary or Kamala or any other person. Trump would have the most support. I firmly believe that. But as far as him winning the election, I don't have that sense of confidence. And that's the unfortunate part. You know why? Because what that says is I don't trust the system.
Right. Well, I don't know what games that they are going to play. We know that it's going to be crooked, whichever it is. However, now I just lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
I'm getting too old.
This guy right here tends to stay
More
the same.
on Trump. If they did try to pull this off and failed, and now he's going to get into power and be able to expose it. They have to take another shot. How can they not? Right?
I agree.
It's a zero-sum game for this at this point. They either stop him however they can, or they get exposed, and they can't afford that.
So I remembered what I was going to say. If they had removed, or if Biden had stepped down, I honestly think that they coerced him to.
You think?
I don't think that he actually stepped down. I also don't think that he had COVID, but I mean, that's me. That's my conspiracy theory.
Not unplausible. You might be onto something.
I think that now that they've taken that shot,
Mm-hmm.
and people have seen that, and particularly people who really, really like Trump,
Mm-hmm.
I just feel that they missed their mark to put somebody in place of Biden. Now, whoever they put in there, I don't think that person is going to get enough votes.
They're not going to get enough votes, but that doesn't matter because
I understand that
because
they're going to cheat and lie and do whatever they do.
Remember last time when they had poll watchers that were kicked out of, and we watched it on live TV? They had poll watchers, Republican poll watchers that were supposed to be in there making sure that there was no shenanigans, and they fucking kicked them out. And then you saw them holding up cardboard and newspaper so they couldn't see inside to see what was really going on. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Everybody seems to forget that. So the fact that he may have gotten more votes or he may have won in certain swing states is immaterial, because that's not the result. What the end result is that the media said, oh, no, this has been through the courts. This has been through all of these courts. And it's been to the Supreme Court. Nobody wanted to touch it, right? We don't want to step in the way of democracy. But it's interesting to see now how democracy is being subverted by the very people that say that they want democracy. Because Joe Biden was the nominee. But as you said, and as clearly obvious to anybody paying attention, he was coerced. He was forced to resign. He said he didn't want to up until a couple of days ago?
Yeah.
And then he miraculously showed up with the sniffles after being triple boosted and triple vaxxed.
And you can't get COVID if you have all your vaccinations.
Yeah, that's what they said, right? So it's all a bunch of BS, man. And so what happens coming up in the next 100 days is going to be very telling. I really think that whatever you thought was going to happen, whatever you thought moving forward is a possibility, I think you should entertain that and prepare yourself accordingly.
I do feel, however, if he does make it into office, they're just going to ramp up.
Of course. They're not going to let go. Of course not. There's far too many people in the deep state to keep your eye on all of them. You can try to put good people in different positions and agencies, but Trump doesn't exactly have the best record with regard to choosing the right people. And that's why I'm a little bit concerned. I don't know if concerned's the right word, but I would say I'm a little bit distrustful of his choice for vice president. He might be a very fine man. I don't know. But the fact that he was a never Trumper and he's a person that is in political office makes me a little bit suspect of the dude. He may be a fucking great choice and he may serve to be a great vice president if Trump gets in. But I'm just that distrustful of really anybody, quite honestly, if you're coming from the government side, especially if you're somebody who used to not be on Trump's side, a never Trumper, because we've got a lot of people out there right now that are like that. The Liz Cheneys and the Paul Ryans and the Bushes and the Mitt Romneys and all of those people, right? The deep state actors that are rubbing elbows with Obama, they're buddies with him. They're not buddies with you and I. They don't have our interest in mind. And so that's why they hate that dude so much.
Yes, Gregory, that was her standard answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. You're referring to Gregory Kissel. Says her reaction makes me wonder. And I didn't seem surprised to hear the shot. What was okay?
No. Down below that.
Let's see here. We are involved in an ongoing investigation and cannot comment. Standard answer. Yo, man, that had to be maddening for those politicians that were trying to get some answers, but they had to know that was part of the game, right? They were going to get up there and get their 5 minutes to ask her all these questions. Some people did a really fine job, though, man. One lady, she made the hair on the back of my neck stand up like twice when she was questioning this person. I thought, oh, this is a good lawyer here. I was expecting her to, you want answers? You can't handle it. I mean, she was getting on this chick. And I was like, she actually got her to answer some stuff. And I was like, oh, this is good. She's a good lawyer. But for the most part, nothing that was learned today was very satisfactory. And again, that just promotes conspiracy among the deplorables, right? Because who do they work for? They're supposed to work for us, but that's clear that that's not the case, right? They don't work for us. They work for the special interest and the lobbyists and the people in Hollywood and all of the folks that are lining their pockets and then turning around and saying we're the problem, right?
Exactly.
What's up, Dean Mullis? How you doing this evening? Gregory Kissel says, more interesting will be the next 6 months. Yep. Yeah, Liz Cheney, she did not fare well in the last election. And I think she probably had aspirations of a different result. But the people of Wyoming said, no, not here. We're not down with whatever you got going on. And I don't know how people like that really just become that loathsome and hateful. You're supposed to be somebody who has conservative values and, you're supposed to be representing the people. And so I don't really see a whole lot with regard to what Trump is proposing that falls outside of the line of what Republican values or conservative values are. Trump now, remember, he used to be a liberal, as did a lot of people. I was never a liberal. I mean, my folks were and stuff, and I got family members who are. I never was. Maybe because I didn't look at myself like I was a victim, I suppose. But, and I didn't look at others like they were victims. I looked at, you know what, man, you're lucky to be here in this country, and you have every opportunity to go out there and do the thing, right? So I was always conservative from the start, but it just interests me how people that are supposed to have conservative values don't support somebody who's actually kind of moderate. Trump is quite the moderate in a lot of respects. He's not hardcore, with regard to a lot of social issues. He's somewhat moderate there. But there's certain areas with regard to trade and, bringing sanity to the border and energy policy and strength around the world, peace through strength, I should say, right? He's not a warmonger. And maybe that's why, again, he's so hated by people like Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney and some of these other Liz Cheneys and Hillary Clinton. She's a warmonger, along with Lindsey Graham and a lot of these other people that are beholden to the military-industrial complex. And when you see people like that are advocating for war abroad, you really have to ask why they're asking or why they're supporting that. What's in it for us, I mean, Trump, they said he was going to start World War III. And I would say that we're closer to that now than ever under this progressive agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I would like to know, people who are watching, who they think they're going to put in Biden's place. If anybody has any ideas of who they think, I know they've thrown Hillary Clinton's name kind of out there a little bit.
Yeah.
And of course, Kamala,
right.
Whom, if you ask me, Kamala's not going to be the choice. I would say I would stick with my initial, which is going to be Michelle.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, I don't know if she's going to be the choice, but I know she would be a good choice as far as from the liberal standpoint, because she would draw in a lot of libs, a lot of women, a lot of moderates. Quite honestly, people that are, haven't made their mind up ideologically. It's not cemented. They would swing her way. I could almost assure you of that. I think that would be their best play politically, but I don't know if she's going to run. I think that's their best chance to get the most votes. But I think at this point, they actually don't even need the most votes. They just need a fresh candidate. They just need a fresh candidate so that they can, run the shenanigans again. Because nobody's going to believe that Joe Biden would beat Trump a second time. Many people didn't believe that he beat him the first time. And so to see his decline over the last 4 years and his disastrous hoax of a presidency, nobody would believe the steal a second time. But with a new candidate, they've kind of started over again. And, Trump's been saying, hey, make it too big to rig. And that's fine to say that, but it's sad you have to say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be you have to make it so big that it can't be rigged. We should have a system that people actually have faith and confidence in, which I don't think a lot of people do at this point. Or if they do, it's only passively, right?
Right.
They just kind of like, oh, whatever, I'm just going to vote. It is what it is. I'm just going to whatever. And that's fine. Because it is whatever.
Hello, London.
It is just kind of whatever. But it would be nice to know that we have a voice in our own government. And I think, a lot of people have kind of lost faith in that. What's up, London? How are you doing? Good evening tonight.
I still think that the voting polls should close that night.
Mm-hmm.
And your winner should be announced, not 2 weeks to a month later, so that they can continue to stuff ballots.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel that the mail-in ballot should be gone away with, except for in specific areas. Like if you're...
Like how about military? Like absentee ballots for military and maybe some other special circumstances. But this whole idea that they're going to just, allow everybody to vote, and they put these voting boxes out on the street, and then they're going to pick them up, and it's totally corrupt, and nobody should believe anything with regard to that until they fix the shit. They could easily do that if they wanted to.
Back when I was younger, if they were able to count the votes and tell you that evening who won, now with the technology, they should certainly be able to tell you
instantaneously. It could be done on the blockchain. It could be done on the blockchain, and it could be monitored. It could totally be like not cheated. It could be, this is how we're doing it. And it's all, you get your code. It's just like having Bitcoin. So they could totally do that, but there's no will to do that. And I don't know how the American people, us as a whole, are putting up with it and standing for it. I think we deserve better. But is there going to be any point in history moving forward that we're going to get better? Or are we just going to continue to decline as a nation and lose faith in our institutions until there's a total collapse? I don't know. What do you think, Rebecca?
Well, I've always said that I think that it should go back to showing your ID, giving your thumbprint, and then you get your ballot and you vote.
Yeah. London says, even Mexico has voter ID. Yeah, man, you can't just go into Mexico, man. They give you a bunch of crap at the border, man. You got to sit there and, go through the rigmarole and why are you here and all this stuff. And for us, they just pour across in the thousands, and then they get free health care and they get all these other services. What's that about? I don't get it. I thought we were better than that, guys. But anyhow, I think I just kind of wanted to maybe circle back to the theme of the night, which was staying the course, because I really think that there's going to be a number of things that happen over the course of the next 3 months, 100 days, whatever it happens to be, in the lead up to this election. And I think that the things that happen, there's nothing that any of us are going to be able to do to prevent that from happening. But there is something that you can do. And that's just what we've kind of been talking about this entire time on this channel. And that's filling your gaps with your preps. You know, what are the things that are going to be most important to you to maintain the quality of life that you're accustomed to when the normal flow of society is disrupted? Right? What's the disruption going to be? I don't know what it's going to be. But with the speed at which the news cycle is rapidly evolving and the things that are happening in this election, I initially said, hey, I'm really looking forward to this as a spectator, as a voyeur, to sit on the sidelines and watch the clown show. Well, I have to tell you that what I've seen in the last 30 days hasn't really made me that happy. I haven't really enjoyed watching that. It's you know, it's not cool. And so, you know, rest assured that there's going to be something that's going to take shape in the next 100 days. They're not going to just, oh, Trump's up in 3 in Pennsylvania. Oh, he's up here. He's up there. You know, all these swing states where Trump was doing good a week ago when Biden was in the race. Now they've got a new horse to pick. And as what Rebecca was saying, and a lot of other people have said, she may not be the one that's there in the end. So they're going to pull some bullshit out at the last minute. We've been getting October surprises in July. And that's going to continue for the next 100 days. So as those things happen, what does that disruption look like? Is it going to be a cyber attack? Is it going to be martial law? Is it going to be another assassination attempt? Is it going to be a global pandemic? Is it going to be a financial collapse? How about martial law, civil war, World War III, right?
Something enough to divert your attention away from everything else that's going on, enough to change your mind, to help try to sway you.
Well, those are pretty big things that I just listed there. And understand that every one of those has happened before. Every one of those things that I just talked about could be life-altering for all of us, where when something like that happens again, we may cross a bridge just like we did in 9/11, where now we have new agencies that are monitoring and taking away more of your rights, you know? Homeland Security. You got to take your shoes off when you go to fly. You got to do all this bullshit, right? So if there's a financial collapse, if there's a world war that we're engaged in, you know, complete chaos in this country. These are all things that have happened in the past. And so what makes you think that they're not going to happen again?
Yeah, I don't know. They're going to be up to something.
Of course. I guess
So, I mean, that's a given. What it is, who knows?
Right. And so I guess my point to that is just realize that you are your own first responder. And nobody's coming to save you but you. You know, a lot of people are in groups. A lot of people are in mags and things like that. And you should be. That's a great thing to do, to have to build your strength and to build your networks of people that you can contact. And, you know, but understand they've got their own issues when shit jumps off. You're not the first person unless you're in their clan, unless you're in their immediate family. They're taking care of their own first. And so that's very important that you understand that you are your own best first responder, because the government isn't coming when stuff jumps off. And so take care of those things that you need to take care of, fill those gaps, take your preps, be a little bit better each day. That's what we try to talk about here and what we try to live. Because looking back on it, you're like, man, I got a lot of stuff done this year. But it seems daunting looking out into the future. But there's no time like the present to keep going out and to just ticking that stuff off, because rest assured, there's going to be something that jumps off. You know, any one of those things that I just listed right there, right?
Oh, it's a given.
I think it is. I think it is, right? Let's see here. No voter ID issues in Oklahoma. They check your ID and voter card. Simple. Yeah, well, that seems like a sensible state for a lot of reasons. And maybe that's one of the reasons why, you know, elitists and liberals tend to try to demonize places like Oklahoma and Kentucky and places from the South and the Midwest. They look at them like they're backwards ass country fucks, right? Make statements like that. But it seems like those are the states that have their shit together the most. People know how to take care of people. They have respect for one another and their neighbors, generally speaking. And they're good people that just want to be left alone. So no voter IDs in Oklahoma are issues. Yeah, I can't say that from state that I live in. We got a lot of problems. Yep. I agree. Get your preps in order. And Gregory Kissel says, be in charge of your own life. Super important, guys. Super important. I know that I kind of rambled on and ranted about some things that are happening, but it's kind of hard not to. It's kind of hard not to, just out of a point of maybe frustration, but also wanting to communicate in a way that, because I think a lot of other people are thinking the things that I'm speaking about, and they're just not voicing them. And unless we were able to get out there and talk to one another and voice our opinion about the things that we see and maybe the things that we see wrong and how we're going to, find a way to kind of navigate around that. Again, we can't stop any of this, but there's definitely things that we can do to make our lives better. And so that's really what I want to try to promote on this channel, and what, I hope I was able to get across here somehow tonight. But I think we're going to get ready to get out of here. But before I do, I've got kind of a did you know and a clip of the week all wrapped up into one. And there's a lot of different things that used to be stated that I guess are things that we use as phrases now, but we don't know the origin of them. And so some of these are kind of interesting. And this is a little bit off the political side of things, thank God, because I don't want to leave you with a bunch of doom and gloom. So,
And Eric wants to be able to sleep tonight.
Oh, I sleep like terrible every night, so it's not a problem.
Help lower his.
I'll get my 5 hours of sleep. It's no problem. I'm good. Yeah. So check it out.
We still use today and where they originated from. In the late 1600s in England and Wales, window tax was introduced by King William III. Obviously, people were not happy with this, so from then on it was considered daylight robbery. In the 17th century in England, pubs and taverns would sometimes get a bit rowdy with everyone drinking, so if this happened, the owner of the pub or tavern would shout, "Mind your P's and Q's," meaning mind your pints and quarts. In the 18th and 19th centuries, mattresses were held on bed frames using a woven rope design which regularly needed tightening, hence the saying, "sleep tight." During the 1800s, people were often buried alive, so due to this, all coffins were fitted with string attached to a bell that could be rung if whoever was buried was not actually dead, so these people were quite literally saved by the bell. During the 18th century, under common law, a man could legally punish his partner with force using a stick, but the stick must be no thicker than his thumb, hence the saying, "rule of thumb." In the Old West, they used bits of currency with 8 bits totaling $1, and throughout time, a little bit became known as a small amount.
Yeah, some interesting little factoids there. I think it's interesting when you have been using phrases forever and you didn't even know where they originated from. But one of the things that was like striking to me in that video, and anytime I see a video of that era, I'm, I guess, inspired by those people because they always dress nice, and that's such a departure from the way people present themselves in today's society. People actually don't give a damn how they look when they go out. In most cases, I would say, or it's just acceptable to be a little bit more casual, I suppose. But when you saw those people, they had their stuff on and they were dressed to impress. And even people without like a lot of money, they sought to have kind of maybe present themselves in a way that, gave them that sense of like, hey, I'm somebody or whatever. But these were not rich people. These were poor people, but they placed a lot of emphasis in how they looked and dressed. When you see people of the colonial period and Victorian period and things like that. It's pretty wild to see how people used to dress. And then you compare that and contrast it with what you see today in today's society with holy jeans and, just, I don't know, man, it's a different type of deal, right?
Well, you don't like my jeans that have holes in them?
No, I don't have any problems with
with
your jeans. I'm just saying, like, as a whole.
Yes, people dress sloppy
Right.
and wear their pajamas. A lot of times they have their slippers on as well.
Yeah, there's a resurgence of Crocs now in society where, that's somehow fashionable to wear these fucking shoes that are like, the ugliest damn things you could possibly have. They're comfortable, I'll have to give you that. But they've made a resurgence. So I guess if you're an old person and you have Crocs, you're now hip because the young kids are starting to wear these things. But it's just interesting to see how people took a lot more pride in themselves and the things that they had,
Mm-hmm.
Right? But yeah, Walmart. Yeah, Walmart is something else, man. One of the things that strikes me, quite honestly, is just seeing the amount of people that have gained weight. I've spoken about that before on here, but it's a real thing, man. If you go out and you look at people, just as a society, how much bigger we all have gotten and how much more of a health issue that is in society. But yet nobody from the government really wants to talk about all of the things that is killing people, heart disease and diabetes and, all of that is a result, of the foods that people are eating and the lifestyle that they've chosen. But they want to worry about other things that really aren't that important. They don't want to worry about the things that are actually killing people. They want to manufacture things like climate change and whatever else. And of course, there's people who are going to, eat that up. They're going to actually, nod and that's, my side, team blue or whatever. Just look around, man, and just look at humanity and society and look how we're declining. And that's kind of a sad state, I think. So yes, barefoot at Walmart, it's a thing. Anyhow, I thank you guys for joining us tonight. I think we're going to get off the air here. And I don't mean to be I was maybe a little opinionated in talking about politics a lot tonight, but it's on my mind. And I think it's probably on a lot of people's minds because it's right there. We're seeing a lot of things. This is very, very monumental changes with a president being forced out as he was. He didn't step down. He was forced out. And probably rightfully so. He never should have been there in the first place. Let's just start with that, okay? Can we start with that? He never should have been there in the first place because his entire presidency was a hoax. He's not really the person that's been running things. And regardless of who they put in as a successor, they won't be running things either. The government is being run by the deep state, and it's being run by all of the special interests that are aligned with the deep state. That's who's running your government. And so whether it's Kamala or whoever, and again, that's why Trump is such a threat, because he's a wild card. He's not playing ball. So let's see here. Thank you. Eat bad and take pills from Big Pharma. That's what they want. They don't have a problem with that. Thanks, Bill Zegley. And you are welcome, London. Appreciate it. Let's see here. I better get to Dean's comment. It says the large food companies are paying dietitians to post on TikTok and Instagram pushing the crap. Oh, of course. Yeah, they have entire budgets. Their marketing departments have entire budgets for certain like not fast food, but those convenience foods. So all the stuff that you see in gas stations and, all the bright, shiny packages with all the different preservatives and all of that sort of stuff in there, that's all tied to big ag and all of these companies that are owned by BlackRock and State Street, and they're all making the money. So they have no problem with it. They're going to continue to push that crap out to people, and people actually put that in their body and eat it as if it's actually food or nutritious.
That's your
And-
2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
That's McDonald's, which I haven't eaten there, and I don't know how long. Seriously, I have not eaten McDonald's in probably more than 15 years, if not longer, because it's gross.
It is gross.
I can't. Yeah, it's just gross. But nonetheless, why can't I see Dean's comment? What do you mean? It says the large food company. Yeah. No doubt. Do that sometimes, guys. Go in the store and just look down the aisles, and there's like an entire aisle of just like,
solid cookies.
Yeah, just
solid potato chips.
Yeah, it's just snack food. And you're just like, what is this? This isn't even food. And then just for giggles, right? Pick the package up and then look actually at the ingredients and see what's in there. Partially hydrogenated vegetable oil, sucrose, saccharin, all this bullshit, all these colors and dyes and preservatives and stuff that's put in there. And that's all part of what they're pushing because it makes a gajillion dollars for these companies. So they have no issue with it because people's pockets are being lined instead of like the government actually doing something to try to educate people and say, you're putting crap in your body and you shouldn't be. You can do it if you want, but just understand it's not good for you. They did that with cigarettes, right? And I'm not exactly sure what the turn was there other than,
They were good for you back then.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they decided to turn on cigarettes, but they haven't done that with a lot of the fast food and convenience food industry. And it's a big part of why we have people that are unhealthy. So anyhow, I need to get off that. Yeah. So anyhow, guys, I think we are going to leave. Again, thank you for joining us tonight. And we'll be back next week, right? Won't we?
Yes, we will. Wish you well.
What will we be talking about? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea.
I guess you're good.
It's like the we'll get back to you. That's my standard answer. I have no idea. I'll let you know later.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It'll come out in the report in 60 days. So anyhow, guys, keep faith and keep doing the things you need to do to make yourself better, because we're going to do that here. And I hope the next 30 days is just as good as it was for us the last 30 days. And I hope the next 30 days is a little bit better than it was as a nation. So again, thank you and good night.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.